the state did not keep its promise. That loss of more than $220 million in revenue is enough to eliminate Detroit's our current structural deficit and compensate for the fiscal year's $45 million shortfall. I am requesting the return of those funds to the city of Detroit.
That's the mayor claiming that the state owes the city of Detroit hundreds of millions in revenue-sharing funds. Bing says, show me the money. The chances are neither he nor the city will ever see it. Welcome back to Let It Rip. Same issue, different players. With us right now, State Rep Maureen Stapleton, Detroit Democrat, State Rep Chuck Moss, Birmingham Republican, the money man in Lansing, chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, and the woman once called the power behind the throne at City Hall, once the mayor's right-hand woman, running her own company now, Karen Dumas is with us. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Maureen, let's start with you. Born and raised in Detroit, once a city administrator.
Absolutely.
Do you think Lansing is going to give any money to the city of Detroit?
Lansing needs to think about it. In 1998, there was an agreement, $339 million, in exchange for not increasing income tax. If they're not going to keep the bargain, they need to unleash the city and allow the city to collect increased income tax to fill the void. But there's a bigger issue. Lansing creates policies that are disproportionately unfair to communities of color and urban centers. And until we get to the core of that, we will truly not help Detroit, nor Benton Harbor, nor Flint, nor Saginaw. We have to have policies that make urban Michigan grow.
Well, Chuck, I know you're a Birmingham Republican, but you also have your heart in Detroit. And, no question. But now, you agree with Maureen that if Detroit collapses, it impacts the entire region.
Well, absolutely. Of course we do. First of all, we don't have $220 million to give away. Secondly, I don't know where we get that figure. The problem here is that, yeah, the revenue sharing in 1998, that bill went away in 2007. That was sunsetted. You knew in 98 it was going to go away. We kept it going year after year after year until this year, when it was replaced by the EVIP. I won't get into that program. It's about $219 million, and half of that already goes to the city of Detroit. So, with all due respect to Mayor Bing, I don't know where he's getting that figure or figures he's owed it. And we don't have it anyway, and even if we did, at what point do we say, look, we don't have the money to continue the subsidy? That's not the problem. The problem is what our city council people have said, and Mayor Bing has said. The city of Detroit has been spending $10 and taking in $8, and that's just going to have to stop. And the legacy cost, what's that? That's about 108% of the their entire payroll.
Representative Moss is not being correct here. In 1998, that agreement was supposed to last through 2008 year.
That's what I said.
They paid through 2002. So 6 years went without the state honoring the agreement, and it's tie-barred to a bill that stops us as a city from collecting additional income tax. If you are not going to go back and make that agreement right, then allow the city to collect income tax that it needs to fill the gap.
Well,
furthermore,
that money has been paid every year.
No, it has not.
Yes, it has.
It has not been paid at the rate that it should. It was $339 million for not collecting income tax.
Guaranteed revenue sharing.
Guaranteed revenue sharing.
Let me bring Karen Dumas in here, because you have worked closely with Mayor Dave Bing before some difficulties forced you to leave, but you know what goes on behind closed doors, and many are wondering why Dave Bing didn't sound the warning bell until this week. He should have done it a year ago, some would say.
But Huel, I mean, in all honesty, this is, a lot of people said, well, we didn't hear anything new yesterday. And that's a good thing. The mayor has said the same thing for the longest. I mean, nobody's listening. If you think back, Andy Dillon and the governor indicated early on that he wanted the mayor and city council to work together and speak in one voice. So for council members to sit here tonight and say, we want to speak together, they had those instructions early on. The mayor's talked about health and pension reform, health care and pension reform, union concessions, operational restructuring. I mean, that conversation took place from the time he stepped foot in office. So this conversation is nothing new.
You know what, but what I heard last night was three things. I'm going to try to fix the buses. I'm going to put 5,000 lights on the street. again, because our city is dark. And I'm going to use concessions from employees to make the difference. If in that indeed is the lion's share of the plan, then we're all in trouble. That plan didn't go far enough, and if those plans are in place, then the mayor needed to articulate them better than he did last night. I was a little disappointed, and I am as big of a supporter of Mayor Bing as anyone in the legislature. But at some point, you can only cry wolf so many times. This is the last time he'll be able to cry.
But no matter what the solution, it will mean pain for a lot of people.
The bigger issue, Huel, is that I think a lot of people don't want to understand is that the city of Detroit has too many people doing too little for too few. I mean, we have an antiquated system in terms of how it's structured. It's antiquated in terms of how it performs, and it's antiquated in terms of output. And people don't want to acknowledge that, and they don't want to change. I mean, we can't do things the same way and expect a different outcome.
Karen is absolutely right.
We can't.
So how close are we, Charlie, to an emergency financial manager? The governor said he heard Mayor Bing's plan. He wasn't exactly satisfied, and he expects the city to at some point request a review of the city's finances by the state.
Under the new law, there's triggering factors before you get to the bottom line, which is an emergency financial manager. Some of those triggering factors, are you late on your payments? Do you have a deficit? Do you have a cash flow problem? I think the answer is yes, yes, and yes to all those.
Payday.
We are certainly at the first stage of the triggering events that would lead to an emergency financial manager. If I was the city of Detroit, I would run to the state and say, help us, because the state has the power to come in and help Detroit. And I don't know why Detroit doesn't embrace this. Detroit should ask for help any way it can. Put the pressures on the unions. Put the pressure on the legacy costs, for that is a problem. And the threat is layoffs. I don't know how. We all said it here. We have too many people that have retired that we can't, and we don't have enough people working to support that. That's one problem. There are many more. But we've got to get the state involved, I would say now, and don't be afraid of it.
One question before we go. I got to ask Karen,
No problem.
I know that you no longer work at City Hall, but there is word that you have seen the mayor at lunch and business meetings occasionally.
I still stay in touch with the mayor and a lot of people that are still in the city. That's not against the law. That's not a bad thing.
Not at all. But a lot of people also question this. Was there ever a plot by the city, the state behind the scenes, to allow an EFM to take over the city of Detroit?
Not at all. Not at all. But you have to understand, Huel, that the people that are in office, both at the executive level and at the legislative level, have to work together. People have to stop running for their next office or their next job and make the tough, necessary decisions to sustain the city of Detroit.
Well, it's going to be tough, and we must all work together. We thank you for your comments and your insights. Still to come here on Let It Rip, the mayor talked about shared sacrifice, but we asked the people of Detroit tonight, would you be willing to take a pay cut to save your co-worker's job? Charlie takes the show on the road when we come back. Stay with us. Charlie's going to take the show on the road. Charlie.
We went to Detroit today because we wanted to find out, would you sacrifice part of your pay to help your co-workers keep their jobs? Interesting responses.
Would you take a pay cut to help your coworker keep his job?
It depends, actually.
On what?
It depends on if I'm ready to take that pay cut.
Are you ready to take it?
No.
It would probably depend on how much we were talking about. I think
10%.
10%? Probably.
15%.
That's starting to get a little iffy.
20%.
Probably not.
20, probably 30. Because, I love my managers. They're fantastic.
That's because they're looking over here. 30% pay cut?
I don't mean to sound selfish or anything like that, or to sound like I don't love my fellow coworkers or fellow man, but they wouldn't do it for me, and they are listening. I love you guys so much, but you wouldn't do it for me, and I wouldn't do it for you. I'm sorry.
It's a sign of the times. We have to do it whether we like it or not.
I got to feed my baby, man.
Baby likes to eat.
I like to eat.
Would you give up your shoes for the coworker?
These shoes, yes.
It's better than not having a job at all, isn't it?
Would you give up part of your retirement to help the workers?
No.
You wouldn't give up your retirement?
No, that I would not.
Why not?
Because that's what I'm working for.
How much of a pay cut?
10%.
How many coworkers?
I think so. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I really don't think
they wouldn't help you? Your coworkers wouldn't take it for you to help you?
Maybe some people, but definitely not at 10%, no. That's a lot. I don't think so. And I wouldn't take it for anybody either. I'm sorry.
It is one big mess. Your comments today.
Operationally, the city has to look at the services they provide and make some tough decisions. And that look has to be done division by division, department by department, benchmarking against the national best practices. And until that's done, streetlights won't be on, police service won't be at the level that people need, and parks won't be clean enough for folks to go to.
Chuck Moss, by any means necessary?
By any means necessary. There's no magic bailout for the state. There's not going to be free money coming in. The day of reckoning is finally here. I wrote about this stuff 25 years ago in the Detroit News where it would lead, and it's led here. I'll say this, though. If everybody can step back a little bit, everyone can keep working. You can protect your jobs and keep those services going, which is important.
1,000 to 2,000 layoffs, Karen?
Layoffs are not the solution. By the time you got through with the process, which could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, you'd end up with 2 people laid off after a result of bumping rights, union rules, work rules. So you can't lay off and you can't cut your way out of the situation. Detroit has to change who it is and how it's doing business. It needs to be performance-based, and we need some creativity infused into how we generate revenue.
So maybe you should run the city.
She is. She did.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. That's it for this edition of Let It Rip.